In a world where hope is a fragile flicker and freedom seems forever out of reach, one woman's unyielding spirit sparks a daring rebellion that could change everything. Behind guarded walls and under the shadow of tyranny, she fights not just for survival, but for the very soul of her people. As danger lurks at every turn and hope teeters on the edge of collapse, will her courage be enough to ignite the revolution? Stay tuned, because this is a story of resilience, rebellion, and the fight to reclaim what's broken. The question is, how far would you go to break free? Please wait. Before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Great. Let's continue. The day we first encountered her, I remember thinking it would be an easy sweep. The Malaxian Empire, with all its crystalline armor and sluggish ships, had conquered 17 star systems before hitting the obstacle called humanity. We expected them to fall fast, primitive tech, slow ships, weapons laughably ineffective against our defenses. But I soon learned that the humans had something no amount of firepower or armor could match: stubbornness and a metic spirit that refused to yield. I still see her face every time I close my eyes. Her eyes, fierce with determination, even as her fragile body was battered and broken. It all started with a battered human transport vessel drifting helplessly in the black void, its hull riddled with pits from our bombardment. The ship was dead in space, a silent testament to our victory, or so we thought. I led the boarding team, my soldiers cautious but eager to claim our prize. Most of the humans inside were already dead, crushed by depressurization, burned beyond recognition. The smell of charred flesh and broken metal hung in the air as we moved through the wreckage, but then we found her. She was in a medical bay, hunched over a patient, her face contorted in concentration, her blood-streaked hands working desperately to stabilize vital signs. The patient was beyond help, injured to the point of hopelessness. If she kept working, her voice low but steady, trying to keep that fragile life flickering just a little longer. Her atmosphere was venting into space, her suit filling with her labored breaths, blood trickling from her nose, an ugly side effect of the rapid depressurization. I remember my disbelief. How could she still be fighting? She was clearly near collapse, but her eyes burned with resolve. I stepped forward, my voice cutting through her focus. Step away from the body. I commanded through the translator, voice sharp but cautious. You are now property of the Malaxian Empire. Her head slowly turned, eyes narrowing as she looked at me with a calm that felt almost defiant. She was wearing a strange uniform, white with a red cross emblazoned on it, a symbol we'd later recognize as a sign of a medic. Blood continued to trickle down her face, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she met my gaze and said quietly, "I'm not property, and my patient isn't dead yet." That moment chilled me more than the cold vacuum outside. Her voice was steady and calm, almost too calm given her condition. I remember thinking, this woman's stubbornness is dangerous. I ordered my soldiers to subdue her carefully. High Command wanted live specimens. They saw potential in her, even if I didn't quite understand why yet. As the soldiers moved forward, she reached into her medical kit and held up a small device. Her fingers trembled slightly, but her voice was unwavering. "The ship's oxygen levels are critical," she said, showing us readings on her device. "Your atmospheric mix is toxic. Methane levels are dangerously high." I hesitated. How did she know about our environment? Could she be bluffing? I signaled my troops to check the environmental readouts, and their faces instantly paled. "Your pupils are dilating," she continued, voice eerily calm. "Membranes around your breathing tubes are turning purple, early signs of methane poisoning." Her words sank in like ice. One soldier, Drav, clutched at his throat, coughing violently. Another, trembling, began gasping as if he was underwater. Commander Vazek gasped, voice strained. "Dr. The human is right. Environmental systems are showing dangerous methane levels." It was impossible. This had to be a trick, a bluff. Yet her soldiers, weakened and gasping, looked like they were about to collapse. I hesitated again, then reluctantly ordered, "Remove your helmets." Weapons still trained on her. I watched as they peeled off their helmets and breathing masks. The moment their faces were exposed, she moved swiftly, grabbing a small canister from her kit, releasing a fine mist into the air. Almost immediately, the burning sensation in our throats eased, replaced by a cool, neutral feeling. She explained softly, "Neutralizing compound. You will live." Her eyes flicked to me, unblinking. "Now, are you going to let me finish saving my patient? Or do I need to remind you that I just saved 6 of your people when I could have let you choke?" Her words stung with both challenge and cold certainty. I stared at her, a mixture of fascination and unease swirling inside me. The patient, already beyond hope, had been stabilized, something I wouldn't have believed possible. I remember thinking, why is she still working? Her face, so focused, so grief-stricken, carried an unspoken message. She wasn't just fighting for this one life. She was fighting for something much larger. In the end, I ordered my soldiers to stand down, though every instinct told me I should have executed her on the spot. Something about her had already shifted my perception. Her unyielding resolve and her unorthodox methods, they all hinted at a deeper purpose. I didn't realize it then, but that single act of defiance, that quiet refusal to accept her fate, was the beginning of something far more dangerous and transformative than we could have ever anticipated. Reeves became more than just a prisoner after that day. She became an enigma, a catalyst, and a threat to everything we thought we knew about combat and hierarchy in the Malaxian Empire. The more she worked, the more her reputation grew, not as a captive, but as a medic who refused to be broken. Her unorthodox methods, her quiet resilience, and her unwavering belief in the sanctity of life began to ripple through the cold, rigid corridors of the facility. She was assigned to the medical wing, but even there, she refused to conform. She would quietly teach her fellow medics, Malaxian and human alike, techniques that defied the Empire's strict protocols. Her approach was simple but revolutionary. Treat everyone equally, no matter their race or rank. One day, I overheard her speaking softly to a group of young medics, her tone gentle but firm. "You see, it's not about who they are. It's about what they need. If they're bleeding out, you don't ask their name or rank. You just save them." Her words, so straightforward, cut through the oppressive atmosphere like a blade. The medics listened, eyes wide with a mixture of awe and confusion. They'd never been taught to think that way, only to follow orders, to treat the elite first, to prioritize the powerful over the weak. But Reeves was different. She believed every life mattered equally, and her actions proved it. She often worked late into the night, tending to the injured, Malaxian soldiers, prisoners, and sometimes even her captors. Her hands moved with practiced precision, but her mind was always alert, calculating and planning. She'd whisper to herself as she worked, a habit that seemed almost like prayer. Stay calm, stay focused. It wasn't just her medical skills that impressed me. It was her attitude, her refusal to accept the dehumanization that the Empire tried to impose. She saw herself as more than a medic. She saw herself as a healer, a savior, a spark of hope in the darkness. Her influence extended quietly, almost imperceptibly, into the soldiers' morale. I saw soldiers, once eager to follow orders blindly, start questioning the hierarchy. During briefings, she'd subtly challenge the notion that some lives were worth more than others. "Why are we fighting to kill when we could be fighting to save?" she'd ask softly, her voice carrying more weight than any commanding officer's. Her words echoed in the minds of those listening, planting seeds of doubt and compassion. One particular incident stuck with me. It was after a skirmish. The wounded lay scattered across the field. Reeves was among them, moving swiftly to tend to a young Malaxian officer who'd been hit in the leg. "Hold still," she said softly, her hands gentle but sure. "You're going to be fine. Just breathe." The officer looked at her with wide, dazed eyes. "You're not like the others," he rasped. "You don't treat us as enemies." Reeves looked up, a faint smile touching her bloody lips. "Because we're not enemies," she replied quietly. "We're all just trying to survive." That simple statement sent shockwaves through those present. Some soldiers, hardened by years of brutal conquest, looked at her with a mixture of suspicion and awe. Her methods, improvised, compassionate, unorthodox, began to challenge the rigid hierarchy of the Empire. Her actions weren't just about saving lives. They were about rewriting the rules of war itself. The Empire's leaders, watching from afar, saw her as a threat now, an unpredictable element that could undermine their entire control. But to Reeves, she was simply doing what was right. She believed that true strength came not from domination or fear, but from kindness and resilience. And as she worked tirelessly, even in the face of contempt or danger, I realized she was planting the seeds of a quiet revolution, one act of compassion at a time. The tension in the medical wing grew thicker with each passing day. Reeves had become more than just a medic. She was a symbol of defiance, a flicker of hope in the chaos. The Malaxian officers, increasingly wary of her influence, tried to keep her confined. Still, her sheer will kept her moving freely, tending to the wounded, whispering words of comfort that seemed to pierce through the cold walls of their prison. I watched her sometimes, marveling at her resilience, her refusal to be broken, even as her body showed signs of constant strain. Her face, streaked with blood and dirt, was set in a mask of calm that hid a storm of fierce determination. One day, during a lull in the chaos, I approached her cautiously. "Reeves," I said softly, uncertain whether to trust my voice. "You know they're watching you. They don't like what you're doing." She looked up, her eyes flashing with defiance. "Let them watch," she replied, her voice steady but carrying a hint of steel. "I'm not stopping. Not until I see some change." Her words sent a ripple through me. Here was a woman who refused to accept the status quo, who believed that even in the darkest moments, a single act of kindness could spark a revolution. She was working on a young Malaxian soldier, his legs shattered from shrapnel, blood pooling around him. Her hands moved expertly, her voice soothing as she cleaned and bandaged. "You're going to be okay," she whispered, almost to herself. The soldier looked at her with wide, trusting eyes. "How can you be so calm?" he rasped, grimacing in pain. "Aren't you afraid?" Reeves paused, a faint smile touching her lips. "Fear doesn't save lives," she said softly. "Courage does." Her words seemed to echo in the room, inspiring those around her. The officers tried to intimidate her, sending guards to stand watch while she worked. Once a tall, stern officer approached her, arms crossed. "You're risking everything, medic," he said gruffly. "If they find out what you're really doing," she cut him off with a calm but unwavering gaze. "I'm doing what's right," she said firmly. "You can threaten me all you want, but I won't turn my back on someone who needs help." Her words, simple yet powerful, seemed to unsettle the officer more than any weapon. It was clear to everyone that Reeves was no ordinary prisoner. She was a catalyst, a spark that threatened to ignite a much larger fire. Her influence grew quietly, spreading like ripples across the wounded and the staff. I overheard her speaking to a group of medics, her voice low but compelling. "We don't fight with guns alone," she said. "Sometimes the greatest weapon is compassion, the power to heal, to give hope, even in the bleakest moments." Those words, spoken softly yet with conviction, planted seeds in the minds of everyone listening. It was a dangerous idea, one that challenged the very foundation of our military dominance. One evening, I saw her sitting alone in a corner, gently cleaning a small, battered doll she'd found among the wreckage. She held it carefully as if it were sacred. When I asked her about it, she looked up, her eyes clouded with memories. "This was a gift," she said quietly. from someone I couldn't save. Her voice cracked for a moment, revealing a vulnerability she fought hard to conceal. Even if I can't save everyone, I have to try. Those words struck me deeply, revealing the core of who she was. Someone who carried the weight of every life she failed and every life she managed to save. As days turned into weeks, her actions became a quiet rebellion. She challenged the Empire's ruthless hierarchy with patience and unwavering resolve. The more she did, the more her story spread among the prisoners and even some of the guards. An unspoken message that compassion was a form of resistance. I realized then that she wasn't just fighting to save individual lives. She was fighting to change the very nature of war, one small act at a time. And in that struggle, her spirit shone brighter than any star in the cold, dark universe. The days blurred into nights, each one filled with quiet acts of rebellion and moments of fragile hope. Reeves continued her work, her unwavering spirit inspiring those around her, even in the face of mounting danger. The guards, increasingly wary of her influence, kept a closer watch, but her resilience only made her more determined. One evening, as the dim glow of the makeshift lamps flickered across the ward, I overheard her whispering to a young medic. "It's not about fighting them head-on," she said softly, her voice tinged with a mixture of defiance and compassion. "It's about showing them that there's another way, one built on care, not cruelty." The medic nodded, visibly shaken but somehow reassured by her conviction. One day, during a rare moment of calm, a group of prisoners gathered near her, eager for her wisdom. Reeves sat on the edge of a crumbling cot, her hands resting on her lap. A rough-looking Malaxian prisoner with scars etched deep into his face looked at her skeptically. "You keep talking about hope," he grunted. "But what good is hope when they've got guns and soldiers? We're just pawns in their game." Reeves looked at him, eyes steady and filled with a quiet fire. "Hope isn't about denying reality," she said gently. "It's about believing that even the smallest spark can start a fire. We're not powerless. We have each other, and sometimes that's enough to make a difference." Her words struck a chord, and the crowd grew quieter, hanging on to her every word. She continued, "They want us to believe we're nothing. But every life we save, every act of kindness, is a rebellion against their control. They want us broken, but we're still here, still fighting, by surviving, by helping each other." The prisoners looked at her with a mixture of admiration and desperation, the weight of their situation pressing down on them all. Reeves's unwavering belief in the power of compassion was contagious, igniting a flicker of resistance in their hearts. One particular day, the tension reached a boiling point. A group of guards, led by a stern officer, stormed into the medical wing, furious over her unauthorized actions. They accused her of inciting rebellion, of undermining their authority. "You're playing with fire, Reeves," the officer barked, his voice echoing through the room. "This is not your place to make decisions." Reeves stood her ground, her eyes blazing with righteous anger. "I'm saving lives," she retorted calmly, "and I won't apologize for that. If you think that's rebellion, then maybe you need to rethink what you're fighting for." Her voice resonated with unwavering conviction, and for a moment, the guards hesitated, unsure whether to force her back or back down themselves. In the aftermath, the atmosphere grew even more tense. But Reeves's actions had already begun to ripple outward, inspiring whispers of defiance among the prisoners and some of the staff. Behind her calm exterior, I could see the toll it was taking. Her body weary, her spirit strained, but she refused to surrender. One night, as she sat alone, she looked at a small vial of medicine she had hidden, her eyes distant. I approached cautiously, sensing her vulnerability. "You're pushing yourself too hard," I warned softly. She looked up, a faint, tired smile on her lips. "If I don't, who will?" she said simply. "We're fighting not just for ourselves, but for everyone who's been silenced." That moment, I realized her fight was far bigger than her survival. It was a stand against tyranny, an act of quiet rebellion that refused to be extinguished. Her unwavering resolve continued to inspire everyone around her, even as danger lurked in every shadow. Her words, her actions, they became a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, compassion and courage could forge a new path. And as I watched her, I knew her fighting spirit was igniting a fire that might someday burn away the darkness of their oppression. The days grew heavier with unspoken tension, each moment tinged with the danger of discovery. Reeves, despite her exhaustion, refused to back down. Her resolve seemed unbreakable, even as her body protested from the relentless strain. One evening, I caught her sitting quietly in a corner, her eyes fixed on a small, battered photograph she clutched tightly. I hesitated before approaching, sensing the storm of memories brewing behind her gaze. "Reeves," I said softly, "you're pushing yourself too far. You need to rest." She looked up, a faint smile tinged with sadness. "Rest is a luxury I can't afford," she murmured. "Not when there's still so much to do." Her voice was steady, but I could hear the weariness beneath it. That night, as the camp settled into a tense silence, I overheard a conversation between her and a group of prisoners. They gathered around her like moths drawn to a flickering flame. "You know," Reeves said, her tone light but laced with conviction, "sometimes you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet. The guards think they've got us all figured out, but they don't see what's brewing beneath the surface." One of the prisoners, a burly man with a scar running down his cheek, snorted. "And what's that? A rebellion in the making?" he asked, eyes narrowing. Reeves grinned, her teeth flashing in the dim light. "Rebellion? No, just patience. We're planting seeds. When the time comes, those seeds will grow, and they'll regret underestimating us." Her words sparked an ember of hope in the crowd. She continued, "We can't fight with guns alone. The real war is fought in here." She tapped her chest. "In our minds, in our hearts. If we show them that we're not broken, that we're still fighting, by surviving, by helping each other, then we've already won half the battle." The prisoners looked at each other, a flicker of renewed purpose igniting in their eyes. It was a quiet revolution, a shift in the wind that no one could see, but everyone could feel. Meanwhile, the officers grew increasingly impatient. They tightened their grip, throwing more guards into the medical wing, watching Reeves as if she were a dangerous criminal rather than a healer. One day, a particularly stern officer approached her, voice cold and clipped. "You think you're clever, Reeves," he sneered, "but you're just delaying the inevitable." Without flinching, she met his gaze and replied calmly, "I'm saving lives. That's more than you can say for your empty threats." Her words hung in the air like a challenge, and for a moment, the officer hesitated, unsure whether to escalate or retreat. That evening, I saw her sitting alone, staring at the small, faded photograph again. Her hands trembled slightly as she traced the outline of a face. The face of someone she'd loved, lost amid the chaos. I approached cautiously. "You look exhausted," I said quietly. She looked up, eyes filled with a mixture of determination and sorrow. "I am," she admitted, "but I can't stop now. Not after everything." Her voice cracked briefly, betraying her vulnerability. "If I give up, then all those lives, those hopes, were for nothing." Her words were a quiet testament to her unyielding spirit, a reminder that her fight was bigger than herself. It was a battle for justice, for dignity, for the future of everyone who depended on her. In the midst of all this, she found moments of rare levity, teasing a fellow medic about her clumsy attempts at sewing or joking about the guards over the top patrols. These small banters, light-hearted yet defiant, kept her sane amid the chaos. Each day, her actions, her quiet acts of resistance, became a testament to her unbreakable will. She was no longer just a prisoner. She was a symbol, a beacon of hope that refused to be snuffed out. Even in the darkness, Her spirit shone brightly, inspiring others to believe that change was possible, even in the bleakest of circumstances. Her unwavering courage, coupled with her compassion, was slowly unraveling the oppressive grip of their captors, one act at a time. The tension in the camp had become almost unbearable, each day a delicate balancing act between hope and despair. Reeves, despite her exhaustion, maintained her unwavering resolve, her eyes burning with quiet fire. One morning, I found her staring out a tiny window, the faint sunlight casting shadows across her face. I hesitated before speaking, sensing the storm of emotions beneath her calm exterior. "Reeves," I said softly, "you're pushing yourself too hard. You need to take a moment for yourself." She turned slowly, a faint smile touching her lips, but her eyes told a different story. "There's no time for that," she replied, voice steady but tinged with fatigue. "Every second I waste, someone out there suffers more." Her words carried an unshakable conviction that made me wonder if she truly believed she could change everything. That afternoon, she was caught in a heated discussion with a group of prisoners who had gathered around her, desperate for guidance. She sat on a broken bench, shoulders squared, radiating quiet authority. "Listen," she told them, "we're not just fighting to survive, we're fighting to be heard. The guards think they can break us, but what they don't understand is that our strength lies in our unity." A young woman, trembling slightly, looked at her with wide, hopeful eyes. "But how do we fight back against soldiers with guns?" she asked, voice trembling. Reeves leaned forward, her expression fierce but controlled. "We don't fight with guns," she said firmly. "We fight with our minds, with our hearts. We sabotage their plans, spread hope, and show them we're not defeated. Our resilience is our weapon. Every act of defiance, no matter how small, is a victory." Her words seemed to ignite a spark in the crowd, a flicker of courage that refused to be extinguished. She continued, "They want us broken, but we're still here. We're still fighting in ways they can't see, by helping each other, by keeping our spirits alive. That's the real rebellion." The prisoners nodded, some tears slipping down their faces, others holding their heads high. The atmosphere shifted. Despite the danger lurking in every shadow, a new sense of purpose blossomed among them. Reeves's voice was a balm, a reminder that even in darkness, hope could thrive if nurtured. Meanwhile, the authorities grew increasingly impatient. They doubled their patrols, their threats becoming more aggressive. One day, a stern officer stormed into the medical wing, eyes blazing with anger. "Reeves," he barked, voice echoing off the walls, "you're meddling in things you don't understand. Stop this foolishness before you get everyone killed." Reeves stood her ground, her gaze unwavering. "I'm saving lives," she replied calmly, "and I will continue to do so, no matter what you say." Her tone was resolute, challenging his authority. The officer hesitated, uncertain whether to threaten her further or retreat. For a moment, the room seemed frozen in tension, the air thick with unspoken defiance. That evening, I saw her sitting alone, clutching a small, tattered photograph. Her fingers trembled slightly as she traced the face of someone she loved, lost in the chaos. I approached cautiously, sensing her vulnerability. "You look exhausted," I murmured. She looked up, eyes shimmering with unspoken pain and fierce determination. "I am," she admitted softly, "but I can't stop now. Not when so many are counting on me." Her voice cracked for a brief instant, revealing the weight she carried. "If I give up, all those hopes and lies were for nothing." It was a moment of raw honesty that made me realize her fighting spirit was more than just stubbornness. It was a desperate, burning need to make a difference. In the quiet moments, she found ways to lift her spirits, joking with fellow medics about their clumsy attempts at sewing, teasing the guards about their over-the-top patrol routines. These small acts of banter became her lifeline, a way to hold onto her sanity amid the chaos. Each day, Her resilience and compassion shone brighter, transforming her from just a prisoner into a symbol of resistance. Her unyielding spirit seemed to ripple through the camp, inspiring others to dream of a future beyond captivity. Though danger lurked in every corner, Reeves refused to let fear consume her. She understood that her fight was bigger than her survival. It was about igniting a spark that might someday set fire to the darkness of their oppression. Her courage, her unwavering belief in hope and humanity, became the silent but powerful weapon that kept her, and all of them, fighting against impossible odds. The tension in the camp had reached a fever pitch, every moment feeling like the calm before a storm. Reeves, battered but unbowed, knew that the time she had been waiting for was finally approaching. Her eyes, usually so steady and fierce, flickered with a new sense of urgency as she gathered the prisoners and the small band of allies around her. "Listen up," she said, voice sharp but filled with conviction. "The moment is almost here. We've been planting seeds of rebellion, building hope where there was only despair. Now, we need to act, but we do it smart. No reckless moves." Her gaze swept across the crowd, her words igniting a renewed fire within them. "We're going to turn this place upside down, piece by piece, until they regret ever underestimating us." One of the younger prisoners, a nervous girl with trembling hands, looked up and whispered, "But Reeves, what if they catch us? What if it all goes wrong?" Reeves stepped closer, placing a firm hand on her shoulder. "That's a risk we have to take," she said softly but with unshakable resolve. "Our fight isn't just about sneaking out or causing chaos. It's about showing them we're not broken. We're stronger than their walls, their guns, their threats. With a storm they can't stop." A murmur of agreement rippled through the small gathering, some nodding anxiously, others with sparks of hope in their eyes. As the day of action approached, Reeves moved through the camp like a shadow, coordinating with her allies, whispering plans, and sharing quiet jokes to keep spirits high. "You know," she teased one of the medics, "if we pull this off, I might finally get that vacation I've been dreaming of." The medic chuckled, a rare moment of levity amid the chaos. "Yeah, right," he shot back. "You'll be too busy running the world." Reeves grinned, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "Well, I'll settle for a nice, quiet sunset after this mess." That night, as the guards kept their watch, Reeves and her closest allies slipped into the shadows, moving with precision and purpose. They knew the risks, but the fire inside them was brighter than any danger. Suddenly, a guard's voice boomed from the watchtower, startling everyone. "Hey, what's going on down there?" Reeves froze for a split second, then whispered sharply, "Move! Stay alert!" They scattered, blending into the darkness, hearts pounding like drums. Every step was a gamble, every breath a victory. When they finally reached the perimeter, Reeves whispered into her comms, "All clear. It's happening now." The chaos erupted with a flurry of noise, smoke, and daring actions. Prisoners took control of the watchtowers, guards scrambled to regain order, and in the midst of it all, Reeves led the charge, her voice ringing through the tumult. "This is for everyone we've lost. For every hope they try to crush," she shouted, a fierce cry of defiance. Her words fueled the rebellion, igniting a wildfire of resistance. Amid the chaos, she managed to find her way to the medical wing, where injured prisoners and allies huddled, trembling but alive. She knelt beside them, tending to wounds with fierce determination. "Hold on," she said, voice trembling with emotion. "We're almost free. Just hold on a little longer." By dawn, the camp was in upheaval. The guards had been overwhelmed, the prisoners free to breathe again, even if only for a moment. Reeves, exhausted but triumphant, looked around at the chaos she had helped ignite. Her face was streaked with dirt and sweat, yet her eyes shone with unyielding hope. "We did it," she whispered, voice hoarse but triumphant. "We've taken back our lives, even if just a little. This isn't the end, it's the beginning." As the sun rose, casting a golden glow over the broken fences and liberated souls. Reeves knew that their fight was far from over. But for now, they had reclaimed their courage, their dignity, and their future. And she was ready to face whatever came next, because she knew that as long as they stood together, nothing could truly break them.